Have you ever wondered what force holds a helicopter back as it moves through the air? That force is called drag, and it's one of the four fundamental aerodynamic forces that act on any aircraft. In helicopters, drag is the force that resists movement through the air. It's produced when lift is developed by the rotor blades, and it's something the engine must constantly fight against to keep the rotor turning. By nature, drag always acts parallel to the relative wind. That's the airflow experienced by the moving blades. Total drag on a helicopter is the combination of three types: profile drag, induced drag, and parasite drag. Profile drag develops from the frictional resistance of the blades passing through the air. It does not change significantly with the airfoil's angle of attack, but increases moderately when airspeed increases. Profile drag is composed of form drag and skin friction. Form drag results from the turbulent wake caused by the separation of airflow from the surface of a structure. The amount of drag is related to both the size and shape of the structure that protrudes into the relative wind. Skin friction is caused by surface roughness. Even though the surface appears smooth, it may be quite rough when viewed under a microscope. A thin layer of air clings to the rough surface and creates small eddies that contribute to drag. Induced drag is created as a direct result of the lift being generated by the rotor blades. When lift is produced, high-pressure air beneath the blade moves toward the low-pressure area above it, especially at the blade's trailing edge and tips. This interaction forms spiraling air patterns known as vortices, which trail behind each blade. These vortices push the airstream downward, increasing what's called downwash. As a result, the rotor blade experiences a relative wind that angles slightly downward and rearward. Since lift always acts perpendicular to the relative wind, this tilted flow causes the lift vector to tilt backward, and that rearward component of lift is what we call induced drag. As the angle of attack increases, the pressure difference around the blade grows, creating stronger vortices and more induced drag. At lower airspeeds, angle of attack is higher, so induced drag increases. At higher airspeeds, angle of attack drops and induced drag decreases. This makes induced drag the dominant form of drag at low speeds, especially during hovering or slow flight. Parasite drag is the drag a helicopter experiences anytime it's moving through the air, and it comes from all the parts that don't produce lift. Components like the fuselage, rotor mast, landing gear, and tail all contribute to this drag. Even small openings, like those for engine cooling, disrupt the airflow and increase parasite drag. The key thing to remember is, parasite drag increases rapidly with airspeed. In fact, it increases with the square of velocity. So if you double the helicopter's speed, the parasite drag becomes 4 times greater. That's why parasite drag becomes the dominant form of drag at high speeds, especially during cruise or fast-forward flight. Total drag in a helicopter is the combined effect of all three drag types: profile, induced, and parasite drag. As the helicopter picks up speed, induced drag begins to decrease, parasite drag rises sharply, and profile drag stays mostly constant, with only a slight increase at higher speeds. When we combine all these forces, we get a total drag curve. The lowest point on that curve is where drag is at its minimum, and this is known as the point of maximum lift-to-drag ratio, or DMAX. At this speed, the helicopter is performing at its most efficient, generating the most lift for the least amount of drag. This point is crucial for optimal flight performance and fuel efficiency. Thanks for watching.